Can you close those things in the background and clean off your desk because there's a whole lot of pills sitting there? I'm recording this. So while I'm sitting here, people are gonna pop in here.
They're either gonna pop in or they're going to, or you'll get a notification and you have to allow them.
Oh, the lighting is so much different now that you did that. That's my good side.
What's that?
That's my good side. Can you close your drawers? Yeah, back here is way better. Can't even see my necklace here. Can I make my chair go higher?
Yeah.
How?
Stand up. Look on your side, is there another switch over there?
Doesn't lift.
Yeah.
Doesn't lift.
Okay, don't sit down, I'm moving your chair. No. I can put the camera down.
So can I.
What?
So can I. My glasses are very shiny.
Beautiful.
Well, no, that's because they're fake, so I can't look up. Can people hear us?
If they were in the meeting, but they're not in the meeting yet. You don't have to record right now. Well, pause record.
Instagram. And to him, that's still engagement. He's still relevant. He's still keeping people's eyes. For everybody else, it's a fun meme. It was a meme. It was what's that? Oh, somebody else talking.
Oh yeah, so we just had a few people join us.
There we go. Somebody else on.
Yeah, well, when they figure their sound out, I'll unmute them. But hi, Chris Orlando. Can you hear us?
We can't hear you. Whoops.
Can you hear me now?
Muted, Chris. We hear
There you
Chris. All right, let me see if this other guy. Nope. Not today.
That's the one thing about Zoom that's better than the old
Take it a
web
while.
app, is you can mute everybody.
Everybody has a beard but me.
Yeah, I don't think you want a beard, Jen.
As long as you're not the beard, yeah, you're okay.
And I'll have the beard.
Yeah.
So,
Working from home, we don't have to shave now.
No.
Most of the guys from Wolf Commercial Real Estate have grown beards. We have a happy hour every Thursday virtually with Zoom at
Great.
5 o'clock, which is a lot of fun.
That's great. What did Jason just send? He just sent something over today. Is that another business he's doing?
I don't know. What did you say?
National Integrity Title Agency?
No, he was just helping out,
Got
like kind of like you do when
Yeah.
you ask your network to like a page or to look at something.
Yeah, I saw that. Saw that. We liked it. I liked it.
Thank you.
So I'm not sure how this typically works because this is my first time. I had about, well, last night we had about 17 people that signed up, not including me and John. So I'll say we give them a few more minutes and we'll get started at 10 after, and hopefully people won't be afraid to show up late and will still join us. I have a couple of people I really wanted to definitely be a part of this, but we learn, right?
We do.
Friday happy hour anyway, right? Come on.
It's happy hour somewhere.
Yeah, I see there's a lot of people doing virtual happy hours. I don't know. I guess I just like to drink alone.
Technically, this is Jenny's birthday party, so here we go.
So that's a story.
Is that our song for the day? We have to sing, right?
So we actually, let me see if, hold on. Oh, there we go. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
All right, welcome, Ken.
Ken figured out the virtual background.
So I think, so hi, everybody. We just have to remind everyone about the background noise for those of you who are just joining us. There have been a few issues, but just be mindful of it, and that would be helpful. All right, so we have, hello, Joe.
Hello.
All right, welcome, people. So we have a few more people joining. Welcome to the first DVBLA virtual roundtable. Glad you can all hear me. Maybe we'll get started. I think people could probably catch on pretty easily if we start to do around the room introductions, virtual rooms. Mark, are you there?
I am here.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
Great, thank you. How are you, Jenny?
Great. Thank you. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
How long has the Zoom technology been popular? I'm new to it.
Oh, 2013 maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, where have I been?
It's what, Andre Dallas company? Is he like a big investor in the company?
The guys who built Zoom are the same guys that built WebEx. And when Cisco bought WebEx, they broke away and they created Zoom.
Wait, you're at the Bay.
That's my virtual background. So you can put backgrounds in. So I killed the the view of my office. This is the view of the 18th Street Lagoon out in Ocean City.
Nice.
All right, well, I am definitely calling you and I want to learn more about this technology here. The technology man. All right.
That's what we do at BBD Solutions. Plug, just a little plug.
I was gonna say a little plug there, right?
Just a little one. I used to sell Zoom when it first started. I was an affiliate with them. I sold
No, nice. That's really cool.
Changing my settings here so I can see everybody. Ah, that's much better. Yeah, Mark, I can't see you. Are you hiding?
No, I'm having a problem with my camera. We're doing all our Zoom rehearsals on an iPad, but we actually have a rehearsal going on right now. So my iPad's being tied up. So, for whatever reason, I don't know why my camera's not working on my laptop. So I apologize.
You're sharing your screen, Mark.
Yeah, that's my Facebook page right now. My profile picture.
He might have.
Oh, got it. All right, so I guess what we'll do is we'll get started introducing ourselves, and as people join, if they're still going to be able to join us, we'll go ahead and invite them in. So thanks again, everyone, for coming to the first DVBLA virtual roundtable. I believe all of you are familiar with our group and or have participated in some way over the years. And I'm pretty excited that we're all going to have the opportunity to get to talk a little bit with Mr. Runyon after in the question and answer about the topic. So we're going to try to keep the questions related to the topic and hold all of our questions till the end, like we usually do. John's got a lot of great information to share. I heard him.
But you know I don't operate like that, right?
Or, well, you know what? So as soon as I stop talking, he's in charge. So we are going to, I get to sit back if I, get up and walk around a little bit. That's all right. I'll be back. Don't worry about me. But again, thanks everyone. We're gonna let John go last. And if it's okay, I will, I'm not sure if you guys can see what I see. So what I'll do is I'll just call on people, if that's okay, to just say your name, your company name, a tiny bit about what you do, and then we can get started. So I'm going to go in the order that I see it. Tom?
Hello, Tom Bovey here. Happy to kick it off. Happy birthday, Jenny.
Thank you.
So I am from BBD Solutions, and we are a technology consulting firm. I like to say we're your technology concierge. We help small to medium-sized businesses leverage the power of the cloud, especially right now. It's very important with all the working from home scenarios that we have going on right now. That's part of what we do as well. We help companies set up virtual workforce.
So Ken, how's your technology going over there? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm not sure if my microphone is working okay.
I hear you just great.
Okay, super. I've had a little bit of an issue with it today. We've been doing a lot of these Zoom meetings. I guess it's the only way we can safely stay in contact with everyone. I'm with New York Life. I'm a financial professional with them. I spent a lot of the week just talking to clients and friends about the volatility of the market, what to possibly do depending on how close they are to retirement, how far away. There's been a huge increase in people that want to apply for additional insurance now. So that's been interesting. Our company has been making changes because obviously it's difficult to get any kind of testing of clients. So what we've done is expanded that if you've been to a doctor and had any kind of blood work within the last 2 years, they're accepting that to expedite any kind of processing. So they're making a lot of internal changes. They're one of the most stable financial companies in the world, which is comfortable to be associated with them. They're doing a lot for their agents and have done a lot in the technology world to make it easy to do business like this meeting we're having today. So I appreciate John coming, appreciate Jenny setting this up, and look forward to a good meeting.
All right, awesome. Joe?
Hello, good afternoon. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, excellent. So I'm Joe Frazier Jr. My company is Cross the Crown, LLC. Motivational speaker. I just focus on speaking to the youth and all professionals, inspirational, motivational, especially with what's going on right now. A lot of people need a lot of inspiring and just motivation. So, nothing in particular that I focus on, just really showing them how to get from the bottom to the top and how to overcome adversity and some of the techniques. And I usually focus on speaking to a lot of different schools. So that's my focus, especially this year, but I'm open to speaking to anyone and just providing some inspiration. So that's basically what I do.
Awesome. And you do it well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Happy birthday too.
Oh, thank you. Okay, let's see. Jose?
Yes, good afternoon. Josue Figueroa,
Thank
and
you.
I'm a commercial loan officer with CBAC, which is the Cooperative Business Assistance Corporation. So we've spent the last 2 weeks or so fielding a lot of calls from existing clients that just want to know what's going on with regard to a lot of the Corona relief funding that the SBA and the New Jersey EDA are putting out, as well as new customers as well that are looking to either get access to credit or just find out and get some technical assistance.
Awesome. Thank you. Drew? Drew Rigler, can you hear
Oh,
me?
you said Drew. Okay. Hey, everybody. Drew Rigler. And formerly Infinity Digital. We are rebranding as of April 6th to Planet 8 Digital. We're a digital marketing agency, which means we're not doing much marketing right now to businesses who can't serve customers because their businesses are closed. But we are, as we discussed earlier, we are pivoting to other areas to help businesses stay in their customers' minds, stay relevant. We do everything from SEO, social media, web design, graphic design, video marketing. Basically, whatever someone needs to succeed online, we can do that for them. And happy birthday, Jenny. I heard it's your birthday.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Chris, all the way from New York City.
Chris, all the way from New York City, actually hunkering down in Rhode Island, though. We wanted to get out of Dodge a little bit. So I am with Elite Sports India. So we're changing the landscape of India through sports. So we've built the infrastructure to commercialize university sports. Think of us kind of like the NCAA of India, along with the merchandise and apparel. We do 16 different sports for both men and women, and we've got close to 70 universities signed up to create mascots, logos, to sell T-shirts, hats, backpacks, etc.
Awesome. Thank you. Mark, I can't see you, but I think you're still there. Mark,
No.
did we lose Mark? All right, well, Mark will be back. Okay, so there's one more person that we haven't heard from yet, who I know we're all excited to hear from. So if it's okay with you, Mr. Runyon, I'll stop talking now.
All righty, well, appreciate it, and welcome everybody. Again, my name is John Runyon. I'm currently the Vice President of Policy and Rules Administration for the NFL, kind of what that entails. And I have a stack of papers on my desk right in front of me right here, obviously with the new collective bargaining agreement that just rolled out. I have to sit down with the team and actually get some legal interpretations on what they actually put in here, which actually kind of governs my world. So I'm sure all of you dealing with your attorney friends get that and know a little bit of the frustration that goes on with it. But, you know, it's a necessary evil. But I know some of you were actually, I know, Drew, you were there at my last talk at Harvest, right?
Yep, sure was.
I did a little talk. What was the what's the name of that school down there, Jenny, that I talked at a couple weeks ago?
Scholarship Leader Athletes Academy.
Yeah, it's, you know, based out of Total Turf down in what is that? Pittman. Yeah, it's kind of taking after the, you know, taking a stab at the model at IMG, and got an opportunity to talk to a bunch of kids about, you know, kind of the same thing I want to talk to you guys about. You know, number one, and I think this comes from being an athlete my whole life, being a professional athlete, and I carried it over into politics, and what I do currently is, number one, you know, up front is be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I actually stole that from some of my friends, you know, that have come back from serving overseas in the military. That's truly what they live every day, and they put all their training into that. But it's putting themselves in those uncomfortable scenarios and succeeding. And I think that has a lot of relevance in what we're dealing right now. I think Drew's brought it up a couple times as we were even chatting before this on adapting, to the current climate and being uncomfortable, changing what your business model, what your business plan is for the next 6 months or a year. So, and then to my next point that I want to keep coming back to. So obviously, number one, being comfortable with being uncomfortable, but also number two, keep your mind open to the possibilities. Those are the two kind of recurring themes I want to talk about. I know some of you have probably heard this, but I want to walk through kind of my personal history and the weird situations I've put myself in, over my career, and what I've kind of learned from that, the experiences I've had, because for some reason, at the end of the day, I keep putting the effort in, keep putting the work in, and I keep coming out on the good end of it. So that's just kind of the overall encompassing theme I want to share with y'all today. And I know when I interrupted Jenny earlier, it's like, if you guys have questions, you want some more in-depth, I want you guys to get something out of this. I don't want to talk at you guys for 45 minutes. I like to have a little bit more conversational stuff, but as I roll out different scenarios that I've went through and risks that I've taken, and I've taken multi-million-dollar risks in my life, and came through the other side doing pretty well. So it's just want to share my story with you, and in hopes that maybe you guys can get something out of it and get a little motivated, a little inspiration, and let some of this proverbial water on your back that's happening right now kind of roll off, and keep your head down and keep moving forward. So starting with my background, I grew up in Flint, Michigan. So my father was a UAW auto worker for General Motors. And I can remember to this day in high school when the guidance counselor came by and really said, she's like, by the way, you're never going to get a job in the factory. You need to find something to get your ass out of this town, because nothing's going to happen here. And, being in, junior high, early freshman year, it became a reality. It was like, there's not a lot going to happen here in this town, and I've got to find something else, to do. And obviously, education was the pathway there. Now, I'll touch on an education hurdle in a little bit, but obviously, you guys kind of know my athletic background a little bit. I was a three sport athlete in high school. Really didn't get into football till my junior year in high school. Was a 4-year starter on the basketball team. Was 2-time state champ in the shot put and track and field. So did a little bit of everything. And the reason I got into football was because I kind of realized that my skill set that I had on the basketball court wasn't actually going to garner a lot of recruiting and or scholarship offers to get my butt out of that town that there weren't going to be any jobs in. And really, because I'm 6'7", I've been this height since I was 16 years old. So I had one of your prototypical back to the basket post-up players that, you never see a post-up player in any basketball, whether it's NCAA 1, 2, or 3, or NBA. You don't really see a true post-up player anymore. But that was the skill set I had, and I had a kind of a awakening moment when I really started thinking about that. Is my skill set's not going to transfer very well over to the Division I game, especially being only 6'7", because there are guards in Division I basketball that are 6'7", and I did not have that ball handling skill set. So I knew there had to adapt to something. And it was one of those, I was always working on my game day in and day out in the driveway, and the football coach lived about 4 blocks away from me, and he would drive by every day in the summer on his way home from work and literally try to coerce me into actually playing football. And my mother, shunned it for like 2 years. And it's like, you know, you're not going to play, you're going to get hurt, you're going to make it in the basketball world, you're not going to do, and you'll be all right in that aspect. And it ended up being that I stopped growing. I mean, anybody knows if you actually hit 7 foot, you can probably play in the NBA as long as you can walk. And I had a chance of that. My grandfather's brother is actually 7'1", believe it or not. My grandfather was 6'8", so the genes were there. I just didn't get all of them. So it was just one of those things. And I had the opportunity to play football. And you know, when I started playing, the University of Michigan got interested in me, and obviously from Flint to Ann Arbor, it's only about 52 miles. So it was right in the backyard. And at the time, you know, at the time, Bo Schembecker, who's, you know, the guy that turned the program around in 1969, was still the head coach. He actually retired in 1989. And they started recruiting me. So, you know, that you know, being kind of a hometown boy, that kind of became my dream. There was so much about the game that I didn't know, and I was walking away from a game. I still call basketball to this day my true love. You know, and the fact that I can't play any of them is a little frustrating to me. But you know, it was one of those risks that I took as, you know, what do you want to say, a 16-year-old kid saying, I'm going to put all my eggs in this basket over here and give this a shot. And I didn't put them all per se. I still played. But there was a year after I played football, so going into my senior year, there was the basketball recruiting season was in the fall and the football recruiting season was in the winter. So believe it or not, I had Judd Heathcote, who was the head coach at the university from Michigan State University, longtime head coach there, actually sitting in my living room one day and offered me a full ride basketball scholarship at Michigan State University. And as a 18-year-old kid, I looked him in the face and I said, I can't accept that right now. I mean, mind that. I turned down a full ride to Michigan State University to play basketball there at 18 years old. I really want to play football at the University of Michigan. I don't know what position I'm ever going to play there, whether it's tight end, defensive line, offensive line. I have no idea. Judd Heathcote looks me in the eye and he says, son, he goes, I can't guarantee this scholarship's going to be there in November when the season rolls around. He goes, I wish you all the best. And, you know, he goes, do you want to accept this right now or not? And I said, no, sir. I goes, my heart's going to go with football, and I think my upside is with football. And Tom Izzo was his assistant at the time, got up and walked out of my house and said, best of luck to you. And at that point, I was being recruited by a lot of smaller schools, and that cut off at that point. Talking about just cutting that, you know, that opportunity, possibility off the ledger, and what the possibilities were going forward was really something. It was a little bit scary, but I know there was a calculated risk behind it, but it was a risk that I was actually willing to take. You know, fast forward a little bit, obviously ended up in late, it was late November, actually ended up getting a full ride offer to the University of Michigan. Went in there, you know, redshirted my first year, and then actually my second year, there were two guys that were actually starting in front of me. All, you know, got all the practice reps. I totally remember the first game we played that year was a good game, and we weren't playing that well. And I was always told, be prepared to go in at any point in the game. So I was watching both the tackle slots. And both guys were playing. They weren't giving up any sacks. They weren't blowing assignments or anything else. And we go into the locker room at halftime. And most of you guys remember Les Miles, who was the head coach at LSU. He was actually the coach at the time. And he came up to me at halftime. He goes, you ready to go? And I'm like, oh, what's going on? I was playing bad. He goes, no, you're starting the second half of left half. You know, so not having a bunch of spin ball you know, that year a little bit, but started the second half of the Notre Dame season as a redshirt freshman. You know, started the second half and really never gave up that slot. I moved around a little bit as one of the guards actually got hurt later that year. I moved inside later in that season, but you know, basically was a 3-year starter at the left tackle for the University of Michigan. Went through some adversity there, believe it or not. On Christmas Day of my senior year, we were playing in the Holiday Bowl, which is, I believe it's still called the Holiday Bowl. It's still out at Qualcomm Stadium in San Diego. On Christmas Day, I got my foot folded in half by 2 players fell on the side of my foot, and I ended up having 2 surgeries for a Lisfranc fracture. So kind of stifled that year because I was on the radar that coming year for the Outland Trophy, which actually goes to the best collegiate offensive lineman in the country, and you know, struggled through that rehab. That off season, you know, I didn't even run on grass until 6 days before training camp. I trained in the pool the whole time. So, you know, dealing with all of those struggles, the depression and all that kind of stuff, and you know, really trying to you know, get back through that. And there's a point there, and this is a story I share with a lot of people. You know, dealing with that injury, and I was back up to speed where I was in the weight room and I could still do stuff. But I remember I was, you know, you got in your own head. That depression sat in, and I was like, I wasn't showing up to off-season workouts. I was still going to class, but I was kind of hit and miss on off-season workouts. And one day, basically, one of the assistant strength coaches sees me walking down the street and actually basically kidnaps me and throws me in his car and takes me back down to the head strength coach's office, who was actually a Vietnam vet, believe it or not. And he sits me down in his office and he says, he goes, "You're being an idiot." He goes, "Get your ass in here." He goes, "I want to give you a little analogy." He goes, "If I told you every day, you know, if I told you that you were going to hit the lottery at some point in the next year and a half," he goes, "and all you had to do was take $1 and walk in that convenience store every day and buy a lottery ticket, would you do it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why, what relevance does that have to me?" He goes, "Get your ass in the weight room every single day." He goes, "I guarantee you'll hit the lottery at the end of this." And that was one of those things where the people in your lives that actually changed the direction and what you were going through. That was that first moment in my life that someone actually inserted themselves in to actually help me or say something, and noticed I was, you know, I had the potential, but noticed I was lacking, you know, the work ethic that I was known to have. And he was really one of the ones that really centered me. You know, going forward from there, obviously, you know, ended up playing that year. Wasn't the greatest year ever. I think we won 8 games that year. Ended up playing in the Alamo Bowl, which was actually sponsored by Builder Square, which is no longer a company, believe it or not. And then ended up getting drafted by the Houston Oilers in the 4th round. So ended up playing in Houston that year. Moved the franchise the following year to Nashville. Ended up playing 3 years in Nashville. And my last game for the Titans actually was the Super Bowl. We lost to the Rams in Atlanta in the January of 2000. At that point, you know, right before that happened, so going into my 4th year of the contract, so depending on what version of the CBA, so that year going into my 4th year of my contract, I was actually tendered. My first deal was only 3 years long, so you end up getting tendered. So you hear a lot about like franchise tags and all that. So there's a tender thing you can do at the time. It's actually been kicked out a year or two now in the last CBA, but at the time rookies signed 3-year deals, but they they kind of reserved your rights if they wanted to tender you. So they tendered me a first and third round draft pick for someone to take me. You know, so someone could offer a first and third round and offer me a monetary sum of money, but the club that tendered me, which obviously was the Titans, had the right to actually match the dollar amount and keep me. So obviously that has only happened one time in the history of the NFL, and it didn't happen in my case. And the Titans actually were kind of, for lack of a better phrase, cash strapped under the salary cap, and their ability to actually sign me to a long-term deal really wasn't there because they didn't have the ability to do it. So we negotiated with them before my last season, before that Super Bowl year, back and forth. And I got to the Tuesday of right before the opening game in September. I got to that Tuesday and I told my agent, I said, do not negotiate with this club anymore. We're done. So you want to talk about a multi-million-dollar risk. I mean, it's like, so if I get hurt in that season and then we happen to go all the way to the Super Bowl, so that ends up being, what, 24 games if you include preseason. I acquired a lot of risk over that season, but again, with risk comes what? Reward. I ended up going all the way through that season, actually ended up losing the Super Bowl. So I acquired all that risk. I was a little smart. I was somewhat smart about it, went back, and I obviously got my disability policy in case something catastrophic happened. So I didn't really, I wouldn't lose out on that. But you have all heard the stories about Bill Walton and how he fleeced the disability policies and how hard they are to collect on now. So that was one of the big ones. And then obviously after moving forward, after that Super Bowl, we really, I became the one guy that was a free agent on the market and ended up being the highest paid offensive lineman in the NFL for about 3 weeks before Jonathan Ogden re-signed down in Baltimore. So was at that level. Moving through that contract, I actually ended up signing a 6-year deal and actually played all 6 years of it, which you never hear of, because most NFL contracts are very back-end loaded and actually outperformed that. And, here's the next risky one. So free agency hits, my contract had expired. The Eagles called me and said, we're not going to re-sign you. And I'm like, all right, I totally understand. But I was, at the time, I want to say I was 30 years old, was relatively healthy, and, ended up, the irony is LaCharles Bentley was a Pro Bowl center out of New Orleans, and Philadelphia was trying to sign him. And he's actually from Cleveland, and Philly actually let him walk. And he went to Cleveland, and Cleveland offered him the same money with a lower cost of living, and it's his hometown. He walks, and the Eagles come back to me a month later and say, we want you back. But here's the deal we're going to give you. We're going to sign you to 4 one-year contracts. And I basically really had no option. I basically had to sign 4 one-year contracts with the Eagles all up front. And there was bonus money in there that if I was on the team come the league year, which I think our league year just started 2 weeks ago, so it's usually mid-March. So basically, once they don't cut you right after the season, you're basically guaranteed you're going to be on the roster. Otherwise, you're walking away with a pocket full of cash from them. So ended up playing, those 4 seasons, and towards the end of that 4th one, which would have been my 9th season here in Philadelphia, actually my knee started to fall apart, and being in my mid-30s at that point was, contemplating retirement, but still really wanted to play, because it was one of those opportunities where, where are you ever going to make that kind of money again ever in your life? And it was just one of those things that I wanted to do. And people told me, in your mid-30s, you're not going to recover from that knee operation. And when people tell me stuff like that, it motivates me to prove them wrong. And that's just kind of how I'm wired and how I'm driven. So, obviously mid-30s contract expired, went through all the rehab, didn't end up getting picked up that off season. Had a bunch of tryouts first week of the season, but didn't get picked up. And probably a month later, I got approached by the powers that be here in Burlington County to actually run for office. Kind of weighed the pros and cons of that, and ultimately committed to it. But I told the local political party here that, you know, if the opportunity came to actually go out and get another accredited season in the NFL, so if you play 4 games in the NFL, you actually get an accredited season added on your pension. So if you can go steal 4 at the end of the season and get it in, you might as well. And that's actually what happened. So about 2 weeks after I committed to running for office, the Chargers call and say, our guy went down. He goes, can you come out here and be our emergency tackle? And, you know, so we negotiated the contract over the phone. Little did they know, they said, come out and pass the physical and the contract's valid. Little did they know I had a personal relationship with their orthopedic surgeon, who at the time was also working for me, because I actually owned the Arena 2 franchise that played in San Diego. So he was actually my orthopedic surgeon out there. So I went out there and 2 days before Thanksgiving that year, and actually was in the recovery room, and the doc came out of surgery and checked my knee out and gave me the thumbs up, and I actually ended up playing out there. So while I was out there, you know, I was just a dedicated, you know, everything that I made in that 6 weeks I was out there to actually funding my political campaign. And, you know, while I was out there, I stayed on East Coast time. I was up every single morning doing all the policy, you know, catching up on the policy, doing all the interviews, doing all that kind of stuff. And then leaving the hotel, you know, 6 o'clock in the morning, and then going in, getting my workout in, and then going to practice, and then, you know, grabbing dinner and trying to turn around and go get back up the next morning to actually do it all over again. So, you know, talk about sticking your neck out. And I think we all can agree, kind of in the political climate we are, how nasty it is. You know, I went in with the kind of view of, you know, this is public service. And, you know, the unfortunate part is, you know, when people call it politics, that's why it doesn't work. Because politics, to me, is more of a game than anything else. Government, oh yeah, and listen to me when I say this, I goes, government, coaching, and parenting. You're not going to like what I have to tell you. I mean, that's the reality of it. Now, when you get into politics, they're going to tell you what you want to hear all the time. And, you know, that's the unfortunate disconnect, because, you know, both parenting, governing, and coaching, you know, it's for the betterment of the team. It's not about individual. It's not about keeping your job. It's not about doing all that kind of stuff. It's for the better of the whole. And, you know, I think that's what a lot of people lose when they go down there. And that's really, you know, I lasted 2 terms down there in Washington, and that's really what my frustration was with it. It wasn't about making the place better. It was about, you know, getting the best soundbite, being out in front of people, you know, getting clicks on Facebook and all that. I'm not about all that. I'm just like, and most of you know, and Jenny knows this is the most I ever talk about myself when I do this. I don't like to talk about myself, and because it's really not about me. You know, I shared this when we were down at that school the other day. I goes, at the end of the day, there's only one thing in this world you can control, and that's yourself. And most of us probably have a really hard time actually doing that day in and day out. You know, I mean, you know, setting goals as an athlete, as a professional, you know, we do it all the time, and ultimately your goal is perfection, but you're never going to reach it. You know, you know, I can get a little spiritual or religious on you, you know. In my belief, there's only one perfect person that's ever walked the face of this earth, and his name was Jesus Christ. And we all want to be that person, but we're never going to be that person. But ultimately, that is the goal. So, you know, it's just one of those things where, You know, there are a lot of things, you know, as you set the goals and your visions of what you want to do and what you want to be, you know, there's a lot of people that are going to knock you off that path. You may knock yourself off that path. You know, other people being in a bad mood may put you in a bad mood that actually affect your goals for the day. And you really got to really center yourself and say, how are the people I'm surrounding myself with affecting me, affecting my mission, affecting my ability to do what I want to do, and ultimately, you know, take care of yourself and take care of the people that you love. I mean, that's really what it's about. I always try to boil everything down to the lowest common denominator. Jenny says, you know, we were talking earlier today. It's like, it's just living a simple life, you know, life, business, and all that isn't that difficult if you really live by a couple of core rules. It is really be the best you can be. Try not to let people influence, you know, your emotions, your thought processes, frustrate you, all that kind of stuff. You know, because, you know, a lot of people that are interrupting your ability, your processes, they're as frustrated with themselves, and, you know, that they're just being bad mojo on you. So control what you can, control yourself, positive attitude, you know, great work ethic. You know, I always say, you know, and I hate preaching to people, but, you know, no one has all the answers. And I said this all the time in politics. If we had all the answers, I'd have wrote the book and I would own my own country somewhere right now, right? You know, it's not, you know, I can tell you, you know, within the first week of being on Capitol Hill, I had a senior member of the House Armed Services Committee sit down and show us a write-up in his local newspaper of what the issues were in Congress. And guess what they are? Taxes, healthcare. They're the same issues. They never change. They're always refurbished and everybody's always got the great next idea. No, they don't. So I just kind of took it upon myself to like, take care of your own little corner of what you can deal with and let the other people fight around you. And at the end of the day, you're actually going to come out ahead. What else did I have to say to you guys? I got a list. I always steal a couple of one of my most favorite books ever was the Four Agreements. I don't know if any of you have ever read it. Just a couple things I always take away from it. I actually shared this book with a dear friend of mine, and it actually changed his life. And just a couple points kind of tie all this together. Number one, take away from the book Four Agreements, be impeccable with your word. It is the only thing you have. I mean, that goes back to, you know, really being, you know, taking care of your own self. Number two is dealing with all those people that are attacking you all the time. Don't take anything personally. People are inherently rude and inherently shy, which can both of those can really be wrong and detrimental to anything we're trying to do. Piggybacking on that, don't make assumptions. There are reasons why people act the way they do, whether it's an abuse, you know, it's a negative relationship between the two of you or a relationship they're a bad day they're having. Don't assume that people are just inherently bad. They, you know, inherently rude, inherently bad. They might be having a bad day. You know, Jenny and my own wife sometimes, like, why are you so open and nice to people? It's like, you never know who you're going to meet. You never know if they're having a bad day. And, you know, if you can say a kind word to somebody and actually change their day, what's 10, 15 seconds out of my day to actually make somebody feel better? You know, if we all did that, we'd probably be in a much better place. And then the last one, you know, really always do your best, you know, but remember, no matter what your goals are and what you're trying to accomplish, there's probably someone out there that's better than you. So sometimes your best isn't good enough. And you have to be real about it. Sometimes that's a hard pill to swallow, but you got to be real about it. So I know I've probably talked a good, 35, 40 minutes. And I appreciate you guys being here, listening, and let's open this up for conversation and a little back and forth. I can talk about what I can talk about with what I know with the NFL and politics. I do have connections in both places, so feel free to fire away.
So I just am finishing up unmuting everyone because there was background noise, so I muted everyone. So
Looks like everyone's on, right?
I think everyone's back now. I think they can all hear. I just had one thing. There was something that you emphasized at the school when you spoke to the kids, and it had to be with being consistent, emotionally consistent. And that goes along with everything, including your health, right?
Yeah, I mean, being emotionally consistent. It was something I learned obviously early on in football, and it's a great analogy, and I use it a lot. So everybody knows when you go to the when you go to the cardiology doctor and you get your EKG, right? It goes up and it goes down. All right. So what happens when you go in the ER? So a flat line, you're basically dead, right? So you're going to have peaks and valleys and everything. You're going to get better, you're going to get worse every day, but there's no such thing as staying the same. That just means you're dead. So being real with yourself and realizing that those ebb and flows of everything you're going to do every day are a reality, and don't get upset about having a bad day or having a bad month. Make that your focus. I mean, I talked about that a little bit earlier. Make that your focus as a driver to actually turn that curve around. But being emotionally consistent, and I talked to the kids about this because most of them in the room were soccer players. So emotion is great. Specifically, you can relate this to the business, but I'm going to talk about it in an athletic world. Emotion is great. You want to be amped up. You want to do all that kind of stuff. But when you get too high, it actually is a detriment to your performance. And on the same line, if you get too mellow, you don't have the energy. You don't have the flying around and all that kind of stuff. So trying to, in that EKG level, you don't want to be flatlined, but you want to bring that tolerance in as much as you can. But you don't want to get too low because you need that positive energy. You need that emotion. You need that, that moxie that you really need to be successful, and no matter what you're doing. But you do have to tamper it, because if you get off the plantation too far that way, it's going to hurt your performance. And when you're not up, up on the lower end, if you're just kind of way mellowed out and all that, you're not going to perform. You're just going to be a slug. So it is kind of controlling that and reeling that in. And sometimes it's hard to do, because we know we're all excited. We want to go all in and all that, but you can also burn yourself out if you're not pacing yourself in the proper way.
Thank you. All right, I'm gonna mute everything again.
Hold on, my wife is texting me. All right.
I think everybody's back. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So
Yes.
does anyone else have any questions, conversations?
I'd like to thank John for sharing all that with us. I know sometimes it's hard to talk yourself, but I appreciate you for telling us that story. I think it was great.
And the one thing I didn't share with you, I don't know if I shared this with the kids at the school. I think I did. So, talk about transition from high school to college. I was kind of, when I was in, middle school, not so much in high school, but in middle school, I was one of those kids that bounced back in between regular class and remedial class. And I could never figure out what was wrong with me. And like when you went into remedial, it was like almost like, why am I here? This is like 6 grades below me and all that kind of stuff. I went in the other classes. It was more in the language and all that kind of stuff. Numbers, sciences, I was fine, but language I struggled with. And you want to talk about another a scenario at the university. I was lucky enough that our proctor for our study table was, was looking through all of our papers and editing our papers and all that kind of stuff. He goes, I know you're struggling in school. He goes, there's something in your writing. He goes, there's something not right there. He goes, all your ideas are here. Your ideas are really good. He goes, they're just kind of all over the place. They don't flow very well. Let me get you tested. And obviously being at a big public university like University of Michigan, they put me in, they got one of the professors to come over in the education department and actually test me. Comes to find out I have full-fledged dyslexia, and they didn't find out till halfway through my freshman year at the University of Michigan. And you want to talk about a shock. It was a little bit of a shock, but they got the right people in front of me even after finding the diagnosis and actually educated me on how my brain takes in information. So it was literally like a 6 or 7 month period. And I struggled through the rest of my freshman year. I basically almost flunked out of school. But it was one of those things where they actually taught me how I learn just through the things they got in the test. So it was one of those scenarios where as an adult, it's really easy for me because I won't waste my time trying to take in information that I'm not going to retain. I was like, I need it this way. I'll tell people, I need it this way. I need it this way. And they'll give it to you that way if you ask for it. But as a kid, you don't know any better. And it was just another one of those scenarios. And I was lucky enough, obviously, we noticed some of the same traits in my oldest son. And we were lucky enough to get early intervention into him. And the advisors we went to with him, he actually wanted to go to St. Joe's Prep over in Philly and play football. And they told him that's probably not the best learning environment for him because of the way their learning is structured. And she said, it's probably not best for him. He goes, I want to do it. He goes, I know what the challenges are going to be. And we put the right support people around him that actually got the information into his brain the way he processes information. I mean, he graduated University of Michigan last July and was in the grad school this year, and he's sitting in my basement right now interviewing with coaches to actually get drafted in the NFL this year, and he's halfway through a graduate degree from the University of Michigan. So it is also, speaking up and helping those around you when you see issues arise. I mean, that's really goes back to my thing of trying to be the best person you can be.
I think.
So John, it's Ken. Thanks so much for giving us a bright spot at the end of a pretty up and down week. I wanted to congratulate you on your kids. First I wanted to ask you, did you coach your daughter, the one that came close to 2,000 points? I think I saw in a post on Facebook there.
John, you're on mute.
Go back to well, all of you probably know this. Like, you can tell your kid something 1,000 times, but as soon as you pay somebody $20 to tell them the same thing, you listen to them. But I never really coached a team. We were lucky enough with that starting in 4th grade for our recreational team here in Mount Laurel. She had a basketball person that was a really good basketball coach that was actually teaching them the fundamentals of the game. And it wasn't about daddy ball. The only thing I ever did, I made all my kids play basketball because, like I said in the very beginning of this, that was my first love. And I told them all, especially as a younger age, I said, if you're on the left side of the basket, use your left hand. you're going to miss 1 million layups between now and your, junior year in high school. I goes, but when you're junior and senior in high school, that failure and that getting comfortable with being uncomfortable is going to pay off at the end of the day. And that's what a big part it was. And she was just one of those people. I think most of them kind of took after my work ethic, my hustle, and all that kind of stuff, which if you have any athletic ability and you play your ass off, you're going to be successful at it. I think that's where in athletics, I think and I think we'll agree, a lot of the guys that are the most talented are probably the laziest people on the team. There are some people that are the hardest working and the most talented, but most of the really gifted people don't put as much effort into it as the less gifted people. So if there's a way to do that, and I think my daughter, the one you're referring to, she is a gifted athlete. She's the most, I say this, my son's a better athlete than I was, and my daughter's a better athlete than my son. And she hustles her ass off. She plays defense. She's all about that. And I can tell you, 70% of her points actually come off of turnovers, because that's what she's doing. They're layups. She doesn't have to shoot the ball because that's what she's doing. She has the ability to do it. But we had one of those moments, like I've expressed to you a couple of times this year, where the ball just wasn't going in the basket. And you know what we did? We went straight from the gym, went over to the park, and I sat there and I made her shoot. I goes, you know what your problem is? I goes, you're not jumping. I goes, you're jumping halfway. I goes, jump all the way up. I goes, because the problem is you're not jumping all the way up. You're shooting on the way down, and you're having to make a lot of adjustments at the last minute. So I got her to jump, and I could tell by the way her feet dangled if her feet flopped like that, she wasn't jumping full. If she jumped full, her toes were pointed because she was actually trying to get up in the air. Fixed her jump shot in about an hour. And, that's the coaching. I do the same thing with my son. He'll call me about, blocking assignments, blocking techniques. How did you deal with this and that? I goes, I don't want to step on the coach's toes because everybody does it differently, but here's a way to cheat it. But if you're going to cheat it, here are the risks that you're actually going to occur when you're actually doing it that way. If you do it correctly, you'll be okay. But in the cheat, if you take wrong footwork or you overstep by 2 or 3 inches, you're going to expose yourself and you're going to get your quarterback killed.
Hey, John, it's Mark Morgan. I don't know if you can hear me now.
Yep, gotcha.
I can, if you recall, I had the honor of coaching your son in fall baseball back, I think, when he was in 7th grade.
Yes, I do.
Okay. And for those who can hear me now, I didn't get to speak earlier. I guess my mic is working. This is Mark Morgan. I think I'm the only nonprofit person here. Forgive me if I'm wrong on that, but I run the Moorestown Theater Company now. And that's my dream is someday to get John on stage singing and dancing with us. We'll see about that.
I don't know if you want either of those. We've talked about that, but
someday when you're not as busy. So I just wanted to chime in on that. You're right. Your son, baseball obviously wasn't going to be his sport, but boy, did he work hard, and he was great with all the other kids back then. I could tell in 7th grade that he was a premier athlete.
Well, thank you for that, Mark. And he is. It's just. It goes back to what I was talking about, is doing what you can for others. And my son has had several experiences at the University of Michigan dealing with big brothers, big sisters, underprivileged kids. And every director of every one of those programs comes back up and said, he's awesome with the kids. And he goes, no, he's like, I consider myself a big kid, but he's like, if you want to call kid level here, adult level here, kid level here, he's down here. Like, he loves playing with kids. He loves being that guy. He loves encouraging people. He loves seeing the best out of people. And that's really the essence of what we're talking about today, is just trying to encourage people and get the best out of it.
Well, you know what they say, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree.
Yeah, I agree.
They're tall trees, though.
Yeah.
Oh, the tree, sometimes the apple cracks on the way, you know, when it hits
Oh,
the
yeah.
ground.
Do you guys have any other questions or anything that you want to add in terms of the topic, the conversation, experiences that you've had that you want to share relative to what's going on today? How's everybody doing? You know, do you guys have any good tips maybe for how to navigate this environment we're all dealing with right now?
I can tell you from what we're doing with our clients is just making sure you're still talking to your customers, that you're being informative, you're being real. You know, stop pitching them right now. You have to, because they can't come to you. But where we find the best, where we're getting really the engagement and solution is we're human. We're relating, we're conversing, we're telling than selling. We're not selling like we used to. So I think it's just a matter of just still being that partner. We're a partner in this. We're all going through the same thing. So I think we're just, you know, being fun, being informative, being together. That makes sense.
Yeah, in my situation, again, it's been a lot of fear, obviously, with all the market volatility, and then the fear of contracting this virus, and then, you know, maybe especially the older people that I've been dealing with are just very, very afraid of you know, their family's future if that were to happen. So mostly I've just been trying to get people to remain calm, remember why and how they invested in what they invested in, depending on their age, maybe recommending certain changes, but for the most part, just kind of staying the course as long as the retirement plans haven't changed. Obviously, some things have changed with your 401k, leaving that, and the Secure Act. So that might be something to think about. With this bill that just came out, taxes are going to have to increase at some point. So I think doing tax planning with your retirement is particularly important as well. So on the bottom corner by my name there is my email. If anyone needs help or has friends or family that needs help, I'd be happy to even just get involved if they have someone already, just a second opinion. So that's what I've been doing, just really trying to get people just to calm down, take a breath. We had, you know, a few good days in the market, a little bit of recovery this week, but there's still going to be a lot of volatility to come.
So I have a question. Chris, how are things in India? Chris, did I mute you?
You just muted him now. Unmute him. Maybe he was muted.
I'm trying.
Back. Can you see me now?
Yeah.
We got you.
All right, there you go. Sorry about that. I had muted you, so I got rid of my background noise as well. Yeah, so India, very similar to the U.S. All of our sporting events we have shut down for the remainder of this school year. So we're currently in the process of really kind of just planning out our 2020-2021 school year. We'll have probably in the ballpark of about 500 different events. So we continue to grow. It was a little hiccup of shutting down this year, which, again, similar to, I mean, if you guys have kids or athletes that aren't able to participate now, they're a little bummed about it. But our long-term horizon, I think we're going to see a much greater shift in towards the esports, which is still mind-boggling to me. But I think that's going to have a big push for the next couple of years in this new normal that we're going to be living in.
I'll jump in again, Jenny. Mark Morgan again, the Morristown Theater Company. We had two productions in mid-rehearsal process with kids, different ages, and we can't perform those shows right now, but we're doing virtual rehearsals as well as online classes, so that if kids are sitting home and have nothing to do and are getting stir crazy, they can register with us and take acting classes, dance classes, even voice classes. And we're in the middle of a couple Shakespeare classes right now, which we've never done before. And I'm running a line reading tomorrow with my cast of Moana Jr. To go over their lines and doing this Zoom thing. We've been doing it since Sunday. So it's thank goodness for technology. It is letting us stay connected with our kids and vice versa. They miss their castmates, we miss them, and we're doing the best we can as everyone else is right now. But thank you, Jenny, and happy 29th birthday again.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. We celebrated my birthday last Sunday, actually.
You're still getting carded, right?
Yes, I'm still getting carded. I decided to call in my birthday card on Sunday. It was awesome. And then, yeah, so I'm learning Zoom. Thank you, everyone, for your patience in the muting and unmuting process. And this was our first kind of trial run for me. One thing we're doing is obviously trying to stay connected with everyone and offer opportunities for them to participate. So thank you for being a part of it. On a personal note, my daughters and I decorated the entire sidewalk in front of our property, including making hopscotch for people. So we've been enjoying watching people walk by and read the messages and smile. So that's been good. That's been making
I saw that on Facebook.
every day. What's that?
Did you post that on Facebook?
I posted a pic. They drew one thing and said "Stay happy," but we decorated the entire sidewalk. This weekend, if it doesn't rain, we're going to start over with Sesame Street and Mickey Mouse and everything you can name. But I'm watching adults doing hopscotch, saying they're just like nice little distraction for them and nice little distraction for us. So
yeah, I've noticed walking around. I live in Philadelphia, so you know, I walk my girlfriend to work every day. She has an office 3 blocks from her house. She's the only one there, so she is practicing social distancing. So, but when we walk past people here in Queen Village in the city, like before this whole thing happened, you would barely even acknowledge somebody walking past you. But now everybody says good morning and hello, and like the whole atmosphere and the mood on the street has changed, which I think is great. You know, people are actually noticing each other and acknowledging, you know, your neighbors and saying good morning and hello. So if that's the one thing positive that comes out of this, that's great. So, and one thing before we leave, I just, you know, and John brought this up as well, and I had this conversation with Jenny last week, I believe, but, you know, life is like 90% of what happens to you and 10%, or is it the other way around? 10% of life is what happens to you and 90% of life is how you react to it. So, and John mentioned this, that, you know, the only thing we have complete control over is how we act in any particular situation. And we're all being tested right now in this environment of what's going on with COVID-19. So just be present to how you react or act to what comes down your way. And especially all of us, we're all business owners. We're all, you know, out there trying to do the best for our clients and our customers. And they're going to be very frustrated and take out, you know, maybe some of their frustrations on us. So we have to be aware of that. And that's, I'll get off the soapbox now. So
Kill them with kindness.
Good box to be.
Exactly.
So a lot of you on my Facebook. I'm going to wrap it up with a quick note, if I can find this post that's on Instagram, actually, that we don't need to comment on. It's just going to be kind of my closing remark, if I can find it.
Well, you got to get up onto this Zoom thing where you can share your screen and pull it up on your computer and put it up in front of us.
If you need to help with that, Jenny, I'll be more than happy to work offline on how to navigate through Zoom.
Yeah, if only you knew a technical guy who knew how to use Zoom.
Yeah, if only you knew somebody.
So I posted this on Instagram. I don't think it was Facebook, but during the Great Plague of London in 1665, Cambridge University shut down and Isaac Newton was forced to stay at home. Do you guys know this fact already? That was when he was able to invent calculus. parts of the optic theory, and allegedly while sitting in his garden, he saw an apple fall from a tree, and that inspired his understanding of gravity and the laws of motion. So I want to inspire you all to go out and sit under a tree, and if something falls in your head, do something amazing. So thank you again. Thank you everybody for coming. Thank you, John, for helping us kind of end the week strong and start instead of having a weekend. How was that then? I don't know. But thank you, everyone.
Thanks, John. Love to you and
Thanks, John.
Loretta.
Thanks.
Thanks, John.
Yeah,
Thanks, Jenny.
stay well.
Be
Peace.
well, man.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.